Hey, we've got the hat show as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got the
Come on,
sponsor.
Brad, where's your hat?
I can get a hat for you guys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always interesting to see how people wear them differently. You got yours way up. I always got mine.
I mean, listeners on Spotify and Apple Podcasts really don't know how this has started, but we've all got a hat on.
It's all part of the coffee in the office experience that they get. You know, they're missing out on. It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
Conversation about hats.
This is the Nolii look as well.
Nolii. It's a great one, Nolii, because I was calling it Nolii for about 18 months until we caught up last week and had a bit of a Berbatov.
Everyone does.
I'm blaming Dan Barnes because I'm pretty sure he said to me the name was Nolii. And we had a catch up, then we caught up about Berbatov and some nostalgia there.
Yeah, it was a good game on the weekend. Did you watch it?
Of course. And we don't want to talk about football at the minute because of this whole league thing. I don't know if we're going to do this. I don't think I can promise I'm going to do the whole thing with a hat on because hats just don't suit me. There's the thumbnail sorted anyway. But I like to do a little bit of prep for guests that come on these days because when we first started, I didn't really know what to really do when we had a podcast guest on now. But now I basically just kind of Google your name and just watch videos of stuff that you've done over the last X amount of years and stuff. But it was one of them where I felt like you would be able to introduce yourself much better than what I can, because it just seemed like you've got so many things going on or have been going on. Would that be a fair assessment or not?
Yeah, well, 12 years in business. So it's like, the whole history's littered around, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah. So would you describe yourself as an entrepreneur? Would that be the best description?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like that word personally, but I've been in business since I was 22.
Okay.
So straight from university, I did something quite different at university. I did optometry, so I used to test people's eyes for a living.
Okay.
So I did that for about a year. But my family's like typical Indian family, like everyone in the family has kind of done the same thing. Mm-hmm. So there's actually 42 optometrists in our family.
Wow.
Where do you rank in that list of 42?
I'm 33 or 34. I think I was.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so my kids are definitely not doing it. I've already told them. But yeah, I did optometry and then like just got involved in tech from a young, at uni. My dad was an electrical engineer, so always used to have like tech around my house and stuff. And then third year uni, I actually saw the iPhone launch. So the iPhone, the very first one, 2007. And then I used to buy and sell phones at university, and then essentially came out of uni, worked for a year, and then started a reseller business with a mobile network. And we were selling, basically just rode the smartphone boom. And at 22, 23, when you start a business, it's you kind of learn a lot about how to manage people and all that stuff. But we grew really fast. So we grew from like me and one other guy to 200 people in like 5 years.
Wow.
And then did another business. So I kind of had a lot of, I felt I had a lot of success in that business. And then became overconfident, did a business that didn't quite work out in the eyewear space. But learned a lot about product and all of that stuff, design. We actually did an industrial design project with a designer in San Francisco called Gadi Amit, which is where I first had my experience of industrial design.
It's New Deal, isn't it?
New Deal design, yeah. That blew my mind because eyewear designers, the way they design frames is they look at silhouettes. So basically just take a shape and literally sketch it out on a piece of paper, cut it out, and so everything's in 2D and never anything to do with like how comfortable glasses are or how you use them or anything. You go and do industrial design, it's like how things work. And I mean, I got quite frustrated actually because I remember like going into it and like you obviously pay for the different phases, And the first phase, we didn't do any like creative or conceptualization or anything. I was like, what is going on here? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And then you kind of go through the process and you learn and you realize, wow, like that's why you went through it.
Yeah.
And then that's what piqued my interest to look at design in kind of tech world, and start Nolii, and it's led on to a few other things.
Yeah, I feel like we've got a lot to get through in this hour though. So what was fascinating, I was just reading up, obviously I knew of you already, but just kind of getting myself in a fairly half decent headspace going into this kind of chat. And what was interesting is that there was a particular line on a blog that you wrote about Nolii, and it was something, you may be able to quote this better than what I can, but it was something like, this last, I don't know, probably 4 years now, since 2017. Yeah. It's been a bit like doing a mini MBA. I think that's how you described it as.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about who Nolii is, first of all. I can shamefully kind of promote some products here. I mean, I got sent a fitness band, and I'll be honest with you, the thought of me with a fitness band is just going way over my head. But very useful kind of product nonetheless. So thank you very much. And ironically, the plug is actually the one I like the most. But it's a tech brand, right? So whilst I'm just, to people that are listening to this thing, I'm just throwing a phone case in front of the camera, but it's far more than that, isn't it? And that was the intention from the start, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, it is. Actually, could I share a picture?
Go for it. Yeah.
This is basically where it started.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my tech bag.
Wow.
And like over the years, I've kind of sold all the major brands. So in there is probably like some Belkin and Mophie and God knows what in there. Traveling around at that time, kind of running my business. I just always found my accessories were always playing catch up, and everything inside that bag was kind of designed on its own and not thought about how it kind of connected together with everything else. And you'd always end up with issues like, things breaking or like, being out of power. And there was always like the running joke in the office that, I was always the guy that would be out of power, because not because like I forgot to charge my phone at night, but I was just a power user, right? So like after doing that industrial design project for the eyewear side of things, I was like, why has no one done this at this mobile accessory space? Where's the brand that's kind of doing form and function? Like you see like cases with like marble on there and things like that on the kind of more aesthetic side of things. And then the kind of functional would always be really, really rugged. And I was like, where's the brand that's kind of mixing both? Where's the brand that kind of speaks to me? And that was basically the brief that we took to Leia, so the industrial design studio, and said, look, we want to create the brand of tomorrow, really. And it's about supporting people like myself, and I'd spoken to lots of my friends and family, and they had their own issues, but they're in their own distinct ways. Like some of them were maybe not power users, some of them used to love their running bands, bike or whatever it was. And quickly, as we kind of started to think through this, like realize that everyone's unique, right? Everyone has their own way of living their life. And tech is designed to be cookie cutter. It's like, you're going to fit inside this box. My view of the space was like, how do we create it so it can be personalized, and it can be tailored to you as an individual, but not get into the world of like Anchor and some of these brands, where I remember going on their website and seeing the power bank section, and there was like 95 power banks at that time for a single power bank SKU. And it's like, surely that's not the way. We can't, it's not good for both the environment, but also like to be able to scale a business to compete with Anchor is like a multi-billion pound business. There's no way we're going to be able to compete in that world. So how do we do it differently? And that's where it came across the idea to try and design things in a modular way. And so then that way you customize it to the individual. Modular was like, it was a trend at the time as well. I still remember there was there was a watch brand called Blocks, and Google had done the Ara, what was it called? Yeah, I think it was the Ara. It was done by actually New Deal Design, and I still remember on the way they both flopped, and I was like, God, there's a reason why no one's done modular, right? Yeah, and I guess that was the kind of beginning phase of it, and you kind of go through the process.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, what led you to go and work with Layer out of interest? The only reason I ask is I'm actually putting together this massive industrial design map of the UK, and I can tell you there's bloody hundreds of these agencies out there, because I'm the one having to put the data entry into this thing. And what led you to those guys from the top?
So simple as came back from, actually went to see New Deal Design, came back and Googled industrial designer London, and they were the first ones that came up. It was actually them and a couple of others. And so then I did my standard thing that I'd do with anyone, met all of them. And then like Benjamin and me, similar age, like, and we got along quite well. Yeah, it just clicked. I think, you know, end of the day, it's about relationships, right? And budgets, of course, but relationships are key.
Because you wrote, I'm probably just going to refer to your blogs throughout most of this, but it's like, you think one of them was about the fact that you were kind of looking back on the 4 years, and it was like, at that time, where do I go to learn about things like design? And, you know, where you simply just typed in industrial design on Google, and whoever's smashing it with the SEO is the first person you're picking up the phone to. But there's not really many places for you to go as in that state, in that position you're in, of who do you go and talk to that's going to point you in the right path, or content you can consume on LinkedIn or maybe even Spotify or Apple, whatever. But that must be something that a lot of tech-based kind of founders go through, where it's like, okay, I've got this great idea, but where am I going to have that validated before I have to go and meet all these people? And are they the right people I need to be talking to, particularly if, you know, you're not a designer, although you may appreciate design, you still don't know the ins and outs at that point in time, the ins and outs of how you actually get this thing through to market. So is that something you're looking back on thinking, God, I've got so much knowledge now that I wish I had back then?
Definitely, man. I mean, there is still nothing, isn't there? Like, there's literally nothing out there. As part of the why I've started like a little blog series for people that are looking to design products, and just how to work best with the design industry, and also how the design industry can work better with product entrepreneurs. Because I think, you know, if both work together, you know, we're going to create better products. And bring more design innovation here in the UK, right? Like in tech, I mean, tech generally isn't known, like the UK is not known for having a design hub here. Most of it's either San Francisco or California or Shenzhen or so yeah, I mean, there still is nothing. I think the other thing is design is only part of the journey, right? Like the brain damage, which is the next bit of the journey, is manufacturing. So it's going from concept, which we did in London Design Festival in 2017. That gap between concept and like product is like.
How long did it take you? A couple of years? How long did it take?
Like it took us 2 years. So the way I did it was I worked with someone who we worked with a manufacturing agency. Kind of thought I could hand it over to them and let them deal with the experts, quote quote. And like when you're dealing with something like Nolii, which is it looks simple, but actually there's a lot of technical innovation in it, like whether it's mechanical features, like that lock is challenging. But also like there's the electrical side of things. So it's kind of, you know, the perfect storm of product. And it's got like, you know, you've got soft textures and, you know, different factories for different products. So then once they kind of screwed it up, I then jumped in, and I basically sat in China for at one point 2 months or 3 months in a factory, or in the factories, and just learn everything. I was like, either we sink the business at this point, but we come too far. There's something here, or I'm going to learn everything myself, and I'm gonna. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a designer, but manufacturing is it's relationships. It's all about relationships, and you need to kind of act that go between the design house and the manufacturer, and you need to know when to push the manufacturer and when not to push the manufacturer, when to listen to the manufacturer.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You mentioned relationships. I mean, I suppose like within different sizes of businesses, well, like the difference between like a small startup that's trying to get something made and you don't have, design expertise, you don't have manufacturing expertise, you're going out to partners and relying that, or like hoping that, as you said, you were hoping you could just kind of leave them to it and to make them liaise with one another, and that the design to speak to manufacturing, and that they would have your best interest in heart. But perhaps that's not always the case. I mean, I don't know, whether that was true with your partners, but I tend to find that you get the same issues in-house as well. So if you're working for a company that's got one, or like got a range of products, but they own the manufacturing, they own the design, they own the source of the idea as well, you've still got that bump up, and either it's a nice smooth transition and you get manufacturing involved right at the start and everyone knows what's important and what's vital to your stakeholders, or everyone has their own interests at heart, and you work that project to, I don't know, get your cycle times down rather than your fine tolerances on. I presume that the twist lock on the cases, for example, would be something that, if that isn't, if your tolerances are going to be pretty fine on that, and if you're not hitting those, the thing doesn't work, it doesn't feel the way that you pictured it, and it's really difficult to describe that. I mean, is that, I know I've rambled a little bit, but is that the kind of thing that you came up against? Is okay, manufacturing tolerances, what's the implications?
Yeah, you don't, I mean, before I did anything like this, I mean, eyewear manufacturing is very artisan. So it's all, you're just cutting sheets of acetate or steel. And it's when you're dealing with a mechanical kind of edging process like that, it can be quite accurate because you're dealing with CNC, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to injection molding, there's all kinds of tolerance issues. So cooling of materials to what time of day it is sometimes for the the injection machine, and then you start to you learn a lot, like about how things should have been designed for manufacturing, so that you could have fast tracked through that process. And I mean now, for a process that took us 2 years, now if we were to bring products to market, it wouldn't take us anywhere near that. So I think now between 6 and 9 months, we could probably get a product to market.
I take it with the nature of the product line as well, is that you're always going to be. I found this from little bits of like recruitment I've done within obviously you're more than just a mobile phone case, right? But done little bits and pieces with kind of phone case manufacturers, and you're always kind of at mercy of the Apple or the Samsung or the Huawei or whatever, because they're the ones designing the phone, right? And so you're kind of almost having to wait to see what they come up with, and then you've got to very quickly get your product out that works in partnership with that. And so I'd imagine that's a nature of the beast as well, of not so much on the fitness band and stuff, but actually like they're going to put out a new phone every year, and therefore you're going to have to you can't wait another 2 years because they've released 2 or 3 phones in that period of time. So I'd imagine that's a potential problem within the line of, particularly down the phone case route, not so much fitness bands and stuff, but just because they're just getting product out so quickly that you have to compete with that. Otherwise you're going to miss out if you're not getting the latest phone case out, and all of a sudden you've missed out on the iPhone 13 because you're still waiting for, because you're in that 2-year cycle.
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely is, and also like it isn't. So the reason why we designed it to be modular was that just like you said, the fitness bands, the batteries, the wallets we could use year after year, and those would work. And we've got stuff like bike docks and things like that on the way, which then become a really universal product. On the case side of things, the trends are kind of changing, or they have changed over the last 5-6 years. So whilst everyone used to rush to getting a new phone every year, now it's that trend now is every 3 years, and this is where my telecoms experience kind of came in. And also we now have a really thriving refurbished market as well. So you've got lots of people that buy a refurbished device, especially in the B2B channels. And at the end of the day, it's a global market as well. But you're right, the case market is a highly competitive market. And it is a cyclical market in that sense. So that's why with Nolii, I've always wanted it to be an ecosystem place and not totally reliant on cases. And you're going to see over the next few months, like how we develop out the range. So we've got more products in the power range coming through. And for us, it's about like getting a customer and then looking after them, building everything around them. So really listening to them, really understanding, what they want. And then building the system around them. It's actually how we built the first range as well, because we did 2 London Design Festivals, and I was on the stand on both of them. And just getting that feedback two-way doesn't happen a lot in the design industry, I feel, or enough. Getting that real-time feedback after the concept is done, but actually it's something that moving forward with anything we design, we're going to make sure that the user is really involved all the way through. So yeah,
you're a big advocate for that, aren't you, Drew?
Yeah,
you're always talking about users and catheters and things.
But no, it's vital. As I say, it's a difference between making landfill and making something that's worthwhile. So I mean, I know there's probably going to be some secrecy around this, so I'll make the question as open as I can. But like, what are the key insights that you found that go, okay, this is what we're doing with a power product? Is there anything like that sort of jumped out at you, maybe a surprise or something, or just anything that became super critical that you?
No, I'm more than happy to talk about it, because actually where we want to take the brand is actually being really open with everyone, and really trying to design it around the community. So like it's amazing once you put something out there, you learn so much. So color is a massive opportunity for us. Like we've realized, the Nolii range, whilst I thought 80% of people would take the black, and then you'd have 20% on the other colors. Like in fashion, in the eyewear world, that's the way it would always be. Everyone would take the kind of Havana or the black, and then you'd have the kind of fashion catwalk models, which you kind of sell very little. Whereas this has been the other way around. So most people are taking the more vibrant colors, mix and matching, and really enjoying that kind of. On our website, we have a kind of customization experience, which not 100% of the way there yet. I wanted my idea behind it was always to kind of bring that Nike ID kind of feel to it. So there's that. That's definitely jumped out. Power is a massive opportunity, just to design products which don't overcomplicate, but really do deliver on the use case, are reliable, and are beautiful as well. So there's a tendency at the moment in tech to keep going up in power wattages, and every month there's almost the 120 watt, the 150 watt, the 200 watt. Customers don't care. What they want to know is that device or that power product charges their laptop, their MacBook Pro 15-inch, and their phone. And that's shown by some of the Nolii range. I mean, we don't have some of the most powerful plugs or anything like that just yet. They will come in the next few months and stuff, but people are just loving just even the small things like having 2 USB-A's on the plug. Just so many people, I guess, in tech designed for that 1% tech audience. There's actually the other side of the world, which is the majority that they don't care about 120-watt chargers and stuff.
Yeah, you just want it to be enough that's going to get you through that trip on the train to get you home, so you could then put it back in the socket. So you just want that extra bit that's just going to get you through the journey, right? You don't really need something that's going to charge your phone for about 7 weeks or something. It's like we don't really care about that kind of thing.
Well, that's the thing. Finding out what is actually important is the difference between like something that does fit for the user or doesn't. And you're right. It's easy to kind of push a message of this has the best tech. It has a new coating or a different wattage or something. And I don't think it's the language that appeals to a lot of people. Maybe not all people, but it's more about like what am I getting out of this? Okay, so a new coating, new power wattage, but tell me anecdotally how that's going to make it better for me. Is that the right fit? Is it, so what, how are you guys going about doing that and learning those things?
So we're going to be really opening up. So actually starting tomorrow, we're actually releasing 3 designs of an AirPod to the community. We're actually going to, so Dan Barnes actually worked on the actual designs, but we've got 3 different directions for the AirPods case, and we're going to let the community give us the feedback of which direction we should go in. So one is with a lanyard on an AirPod, one is with a recycled material, and then the other one is a lock with a lock on the back, which attaches to the back of the phone case. And we want feedback. So we want to know, like, we'll own the design. That's for us to do. But we want to know which route we can take. And each one has a slightly different business case as well. So the recycled material or the lanyard one is probably going to be the most expensive. And, the recycled, probably the cheapest, and also the lowest kind of carbon footprint, obviously, but maybe the least unique out of the products, if we were to compare it against other kind of AirPods out there. So at the end of the day, though, it's letting that community decide, and we're going to start doing this with everything now. So with every single product that we kind of push forward. And another thing that we've learned as well from our users, actually, just thinking about it, is packaging. We massively over packaged the product. Brad, you would have probably seen it with.
There was a lot of packaging going on. It was just my bin. I was like, Jesus. But then again, I think I was probably sent most of the products, right? So most people wouldn't go and buy the Nolii range. It was one of those where I was like, Jesus, I've got packaging for this. I've got packaging for this.
And it's natural in a way. Yeah. Like as an owner, you get a bit excited, right? You're like, releasing it, 3-year journey, bloody, try and make it as good as possible. But then you realize, like, customers just like, what's the point? Like, it's just going to go, like you said, it's just going to go in the bin, right? So what we've done actually with some of the more recent products we're bringing in now, we've totally stripped it away. Like, of course, still making sure the brand ID is maintained, and we got that nice, still feels like a Nolii product. Because one thing that's quite unique, I think, about the range also is the tactility. So it's got to feel nice, even on the packaging when you open it and stuff. But at the same time, we've been able to strip away the cost, which means that we can deliver better value to the customer. So I think, and that's something that I've learned. Benjamin did an amazing job of this, whether intentionally or unintentionally. He's not only designed with us, obviously, a great product, but I think also designed a good business model inside the product as well.
So is it one of them when you're kind of, I don't know, maybe you thought this when you was typing in industrial designer on agency on Google, but once you started to build that relationship, did you start to get a feel for actually this is more about the wider ecosystem rather than a design agency is going, yeah, we'll design that for you. But actually they were starting to design a business for you just as much.
Yeah, I mean, that was
the brief, designing a product.
It's the brief I actually took to them. Okay. So I didn't want to just design a phone case. I wanted to design a system. So then someone buys, because it's really difficult to make a business out of just a phone case, right? Like very few actually do. And the ones that do, like, it's just challenging. So my thoughts were like, if someone buys a phone case every 2 years, but they also buy all the other accessories along the way, and they need the cables for HDMI and all kinds of stuff. So we could own that relationship, provide something different to the market, try and own it, and then cross-sell and upsell over time. But provide something distinct that resonates with people, that is different in the market. I think that's what's been amazing is even in the period of time that we've been in development, there still hasn't been anything like that's similar to Nolii yet. But it's probably also why it's so bloody hard. I'm actually not surprised as well.
So when you're kind of going through that process of working with an industrial design agency for the first time, how difficult was it to almost, did you have to give up a little bit of control as well, of saying, look, you guys are the experts, I'll leave it in your capable hands? Or just trying to think, for someone that may be listening, that's they've never worked with an industrial design agency before, they're in that boat you was in 2017, what would you say are the big things? Say, don't do that, or still remember that core reason of why you got in touch with these people in the first place? Is Nolii now just a very different thing to what it was in 2017? Do you look back and think, actually, this is a very different product or system than we originally intended it to be?
Yeah, so I think some of the things that we've done in Nolii have been great, but then certain products haven't quite made it as well. Some kind of failed in the development phase. And that's normal, right? When you're trying to like push the boundaries, that's going to happen. So I think
part of the development process, isn't it? Is you've got to strip away the things that don't work as early as you can.
Yeah.
Just to jump in, I know that Brad's just asked you like 3 questions.
You
hit
just
on point. Like,
throw another 3 at him.
As a designer, sometimes you can get really bummed out when you hit on an idea, you think it ticks a load of boxes, and then it just doesn't quite click. It's just not happening. Like if you're the business owner, have you got your pets that you're trying to push through, or do you try and avoid that?
No, I think so. Now, having gone through the experience, I think that definition phase is really, really key. So really defining what the product is that we're going for, like what is the use case, what does it look like, all of those things, getting that out really early. And I like to be really focused from that point onwards. Once we've frozen that, that's it. Like we're not deviating from this. And I think, it's natural. I'm personally creative as well. And it's natural for, there always to be new ideas and stuff. But I think unless it's like something that's going to really add value, I normally tend to freeze it at that point. And then we focus the rest of the design process on just driving that through. Because now what I've learned is like design is, especially when you're bringing a new product to market, it's only the beginning. It's 20% of the work. The other 80% is the manufacturing, the marketing, the bringing it to market, the channels, making sure you have a business model, then getting the feedback, redesigning it. So I think that's what I've learned is that spend. Of course, you want to make the best products possible, but like you were alluding to earlier, like you need to make sure that you fail fast, you get really, really like clear on what the product is, get it out there, learn and iterate, and then come back and keep looping through that process.
Do you think when you're doing that, are you then staying with that one creative team during that iteration, or are you thinking, actually, what, we've gone through this process with X agency, actually now I think we're at a point where we need a fresh pair of eyes to take us? It's a bit like when United will sack someone, they'll bring someone in and all of a sudden Pogba starts playing well. Where have you been for the last 6 months? Is it a bit like that where you're actually, thanks guys, but I now need another set of creative eyes to really take this on?
Yeah, we're always looking for the new Haaland.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, I mean, so the way we structured ourselves in Nolii, we got creative directors who are the owners of the branding agency Made Thought. So they kind of like work with me to kind of be the brand guardians. But then from a product point of view, now I want to be working with different agencies on different things. But because I've got to know a lot of people now, I also quite selective on what I think their strengths are. So for example, with our bike doc, we've worked with Dan Barnes.
From Beryl, yeah.
Yeah, he's got fantastic experience from Beryl, and with everything he's done there. And so, it's a great fit to work with him. So it doesn't need to be an agency, it could be an individual like that, creating his own quasi-agency model. But then likewise, could be us working with agencies. We're actually going to announce something in the next few months of agencies we're working with. But yeah, and I'm keen to meet more agencies as well. It's been interesting, putting some content out, the amount of agencies that reached out that, are interested in what we're doing and want to work with us and stuff. And I'm open completely to that because, I think, every agency's got their own little specialism. And I think it's important for people to stand out as well, right? Be niche in that particular area. There's a guy I was speaking to who does a lot of Japanese design, which is really, really interesting.
Is there anything out there or that you'd want that would be able to help you make those decisions, where it's okay, we're X company doing X thing? It's almost like not some sort of matchmaking service, but this kind of reconfirmation that the person I'm talking to is the go-to person for where I'm at right now, rather than having to kiss a few frogs and go down a bit of a rabbit hole where it's ooh. But actually, I don't know what that could be, but just something where it's for you guys in the world of business, where you could actually, rather than having to just rely on Google, that there's just this thing you go to and it tells me who I need to be speaking to for X project.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean,
or is it just about that? It's subjective, and it's about those relationships and just how you click at that first meeting type thing, and it's not something you can put on a blog or whatever. It's just you just have to go through meeting those different people to really understand.
I think there are designers who are very good at selling themselves, and it's easy to find those guys, like we just said, like Google. And then there's designers that are not good at selling themselves, and there's designers that don't even bother selling themselves. So I think definitely if there was some sort of directory or something, or you should do it with what you're doing, some sort of featuring around some of these guys. I think it would definitely help business people for sure.
Yeah, I always thought it would be helpful if you could get some kind of tendering service, but not those like Fiverr or something, where you just it's just undercutting someone's out there to do it for free or for a Fiverr. But if there was a decent anonymous tendering service, so you've got a package of work. Here's the goal. You tell me what you would do. You send me your proposal. I go through them. We go through to round 2, where we're going to have a conversation. But
definitely, I mean, there's definitely a business model there, 100%, right? Someone that acts as that person who knows everyone and kind of connects the dots. And you're seeing these business models in all kinds of other industries. Like in the creative industry, I'm working with a branding partner who actually has that exact same business model, but for branding. And they work with both agencies and freelancers, and they bring in the best team for the project. So anyone listening, that's, go and do it.
Yeah, we're listening, we might edit that bit out. How strong that feedback was. I'm like,
it's a need, 100%. Because what tends to happen otherwise, big companies, what do? They just go to the leading designer that they've seen on, whether it's wallpaper or design, or and they're probably not even looking at those kinds of platforms. They're probably looking at Wired or in GQ or whatever.
Out of interest, do you look at design awards as a validity of company X knows what they're doing? Do you look at that and go, okay, that person or that agency just won a boatload of awards, I'm going to go and talk to those guys? Or does it really have any kind of factor in your decision making at all?
Not now, because I know how easy it is to get these awards.
I'm glad you said it.
You just pay. I mean, you got something slightly unique. You pay the money and you get the award, right?
Yeah.
So it's super easy. I shouldn't degrade it like that, but it's easy-ish to get these awards.
Got to have a really honest conversation about awards without either sounding like a little bit bitter or dismissive.
Yeah, because we just can't win them.
Well, like I've said before, have the names on those kind of things, but you do think like it's, oh, is that it? Like actually going through the process and sending it off, and then you go, yeah, you've been selected. You're like, oh, I thought there'd be more to it than that. Like I put a lot of work in this. Like, do you want to know more? Like, you want to dig a bit more and find out how we. Okay, sure, great. And then it sort of feels like, oh, I don't want any more now. Like that's not worth it to me. Personal view, but there you go.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm someone from outside of this industry looking at design, for sure, right? It's going to be something that I look at. So whether it's a Red Dot Design Award or an IF Award, probably Red Dot is probably the most well known outside of design. That's something that I look at. But I mean, if there are people watching this that are thinking about which agency to select, the one thing that I ask every single time is how many products have you shipped? What quantities have you shipped them in? And how many of the concepts have actually gone through to production? And tell me about the commercial success of those products as well.
What about things like ISO 9001? Does that come up at all in your selection?
Maybe not for that kind of product though, Drew, I don't reckon.
Well, no, I mean that's just about the the structure in the organization and that type of thing. An approach to quality and things. I know that obviously in the industries that I've worked in, mostly it's either 9001, 13485, or something that's more fitted. And like some designers will not, or some agencies won't have that, and that might be critical on the approved suppliers list for some of these companies. I just wondered like where you sit on that.
Yeah, and look, I'm a kind of smaller business. I mean, in total, we employ 120 people across our portfolio. So we're a small business, small medium-sized business. So for me, I wouldn't look at that personally. But then when it comes to the next phase of the manufacturing, I look at all of that stuff. Audit the factories, sustainability reports, that kind of side of things. But come to the design agency, for me, it's about, I want to get to know everyone. I want to get to know all the people that are on the team. Like the creative directors, yes, they're the first person, but I want to get to know everyone else. I want to know what makes them tick, what they're passionate about, and really build like a close relationship with the whole design team. That's key for me. Like the personalities, do I click with them? Do they excite me? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and making sure that the person that turns up to pitch is probably the one that's going to be doing the design work. That seems to be quite a common kind of thing we've had throughout these episodes we've done, Drew, is like, if you're an agency, like if you're going to pitch for work, make sure that the end client has some form of access to the person that's actually going to be delivering the work. Yeah.
And likewise, there's some people who are like really good at delivering on the project and perhaps not the most charismatic. So you kind of, you need that little bit of, it's as you say, I think it's been on here a few times. People say, people by people, right? And that relationship is super important. You need the confidence to know that the work is going to get done in a way that you believe in, but also that you can have fairly robust conversations and enjoy working with them as well. So it's like,
I'm starting to think that it isn't as much about people buy from people anymore, and it's more about people buy from people that have solutions to the problem. I'm starting to form that view of the world rather than it's. Do you not buy that? No,
I honestly,
I genuinely think if the person has the solution to your problem, you'll be a little bit more lenient. I think other things.
I somewhat share that view, and I do.
Just don't be a complete dick, basically, and then you'll be alright.
Yeah. But I also think like at the start of something, you don't have the solutions out there. The thing is like, do I want to go on a journey with this person, and like, do I want to invest my time and effort and the future
and money
in it with this set of people? Yeah, and like money and future security.
Yeah, cool.
And like, we can't have the solutions right now. If someone right at the start is trying to tell me that they've solved the problem, I'm like, no, you haven't. Right, who's next?
Yeah. I'm quite conscious that we're coming up to an hour, and as I sent you a message, we always ask one question to like wrap things up. Now, I'll ask the same question to you. It might be a case if you don't have the answer, but the question is always just the strangest brief you've ever worked on. Now, it may have been the strangest brief you've ever put together, so it may be the other way around. But were there any kind of standout either briefs or maybe just stories of over the last 4 years that really kind of resonate with you, you look back and laugh at?
Yeah, I mean, I've got one. So like one that I learned a lot from, actually. So I'll tell you the moral of the story at the end. But essentially, we had a retail store, and it was an architect that won't be named. We took the store to him and said, create a new concept, do something with this space. Like, you're the visionary, create something with this. So retail shops, your ground floor is your most expensive space. Yeah. So you pay, top dollar for that. And then basements, if you have basements, you're, 1/5 or 1/10 of the price normally. So the concept that he created was he took out pretty much 80% of the ground floor space to create a staircase that went downstairs. Yeah. And led everyone into the downstairs space, because his idea was to create the basement as the kind of main retail space. Just shows like, I think it's really important to give a designer a really, really clear brief.
Yeah.
Like, don't give them like a complete carte blanche, because and this is, a lot of designers are very commercial, but ultimately the designer will go to what the brief was, right? And the brief was create something new, create a new concept, and that's what he delivered on. But he wasn't thinking like commercially. And I think as the business owners or whatever, you got to like really own that commercial piece. Let the designer focus on the creativity and solving the problem at the end of the day, right? You need to worry about the commercial piece and keeping them in check, of course, when they don't deliver it.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be very close, like from like all the stakeholders, as many as you can get involved. Really, anyone that's critical in making a decision, to have them in that brief forming period, right, where you're really identifying what actually is the problem. Like, yes, you want something new, but what shape of new, what type of new? I've tripped over words before, or like butted heads internally over the word differentiation. It's become a pet hate, because all right, it's different, but is different better than being quite similar but really, really effective? Like, if everybody really likes this thing that works really well, and you don't think it's quite different enough from something that also works really, really well, then am I gonna like, what else does it need to do? I mean, it can get satellite radio, but that's not helping someone go to the toilet. That's not, it's not helpful. It's just nonsense. So, sorry, that's not to bounce back. That's a nonsense brief. It's just like, I would say it's really critical to understand exactly what it is that that it's going to make you tick. That you were saying, you want to see how they work and what makes them tick. It's like, that's a really important thing to know. What do you mean by the words that you're using?
Yeah, I think also, like, for anyone designing products as well, like in a design like brief and budget, like that's where you can like use up loads of money, right? Because if you tell a designer to go to school around find me the gap in the market, like spend ages on that research. So you want to be like really focused. You own that. You're the bloody business owner, right? Like, you got to own that.
Yeah.
What's the opportunity?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. So, do really appreciate you coming on and joining us, particularly as it's like 5 to 7 now. Although doesn't look like it's
early.
5 to 7.
Early
Yeah, that's early for you. Yeah, but yeah, thank you for coming on. We've always kind of planned when this started, where it's like we don't just want to bring on designers all day long. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's just, as I said to you when we caught up on, I don't know, Thursday, where it was like, let's just bring on designers talking to other designers about the power of design, like this preaching to the converted exercise. It's a bit boring, isn't it? So it's great to kind of bring on your kind of lived experience and perspective, and hopefully there'll be some people that are in maybe the agency world or wanting to go into agency that can resonate with it, and maybe can have a different thought off the back of it of, okay, maybe I should really nail down that brief or whatever. And yeah, the door is always open if you ever want to come back on.
No, pleasure, guys. It's been.
I think we should get you on like a live panel once we're up and able to do live events, for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Totally
although you have to deal with quite a few designers, so I can only apologise in advance for that. But
sounds like you've met them all already.
Yeah, you've probably met more than us, to be fair.